What's up, Bolt Bros?
Hello.
Hey. How you doing out there in Arizona, brother?
We are good. We are good. Oh man, the weather's amazing out here. Well, of course, It's not as good as LA, but
Actually,
it's all good.
Yeah, but it's been snowing out here, dude.
What? It was snowing in LA?
It literally snowed in LA yesterday.
God, are you serious?
Yeah. It was really weird. But it was more like towards the mountains. Like if you live, like you were like living like on the foot of the mountain area, like like for me in Pasadena, like in Altadena, like is like right near the mountain, and it literally snowed a little bit.
Wow, gotta love that.
Freaking wild.
We got a special guest, Senior Scrappy. You want to introduce yourself and where you hail from, Senior Scrappy?
That'd be Senior Snappy.
Senior Snappy, my bad. Senior Snappy,
San Diego, California.
Oh, very cool.
County, to be fair to those that are in San Diego, they don't claim Carlsbad, which is where I actually live, but I claim San Diego. So
yeah, why not? Yeah. I think, as far as I know, Carlsbad is like really part of San Diego. I mean, it's south of LA. It's not part of Orange County or anything, right? So like it's definitely
damn right.
Yeah.
It's not part of Orange County.
Yeah. So hey, may as well be to me. So that's good. That's good.
Good to see you guys.
Well, yeah, I'm in Pasadena, and Andrew is over there in Arizona right now.
Arizona, yes, that's right. Yep. So a place called Queen Creek,
little
suburb of Phoenix, that whole area.
Yeah.
So, Senior Snappy, why don't you tell us a little about your, Rivers Lake Yahct Club, where we find you, and a little bit about what you're doing with your blog and everything.
Yeah, thank you. Rivers Lake Yahct Club, founded to defend Rivers Lake from the Rams, from all the other opposing fans that come to SoFi Stadium week after week, just to remind everybody that it's always been Rivers Lake. It's never been called anything other than Rivers Lake. We've got a great little sports blog with some excellent writers, and it's at riverslake.org. Got some fun things that we sell too if you want to represent Rivers Lake or just stick your finger in the eye of the Rams when you are around town. So come pay us a visit. As far as social media goes, I seem to have only figured Twitter out and only barely. We do have an Instagram and do some stuff on Facebook as well. So, but it's, there you go.
I love it.
Thanks for having me today. I'm looking forward to our partnership. We've been talking about how we're gonna work together and help grow this fan base together. So I know we're not probably going to talk about it today, but I'm looking forward to doing stuff with you guys. I love your podcast and your energy.
Yeah, no, we like with the articles you guys got as well too. You know, like we like the writers you got. You know, Dominic's amazing. You're amazing. I know like some of the other the fellow out of USC is amazing as well. And honestly, yeah. And I love the story about how you guys actually manipulated the Google map system to make the lake in front of SoFi Stadium actually Rivers Lake, you know?
Yeah. Isn't it great that we manipulated Google instead of Google manipulating us for a change?
Yeah, that's amazing. Yeah.
Stick it to the man. I love it. I love it.
Great.
Yeah, it won't be the last one, but it's the big one, you know, just as long as we call it Rivers Lake, that's what it is. You know, it's kind of like an experiment. Originally, I would say it's sort of an experiment in what reality really is, because if you think about it, it's a lake, and yeah, somebody paid for that lake to be there, and maybe they have an idea of what it should be called. They didn't bother to name it, but that's another matter. But is it the person that paid to dig the hole that gets to name a geological feature, or is it the community?
I think
you know what my opinion is. I think it's the community. So
yeah, I think so too. Yeah.
And by the way, guys, also remember Rivers Lake Yacht Club's always at the tailgate as well, too, guys. The tailgate never loses. Tailgate's undefeated. A lot of fun. So I love it. But we can't find you, and we'll definitely keep talking about your podcast as well, too, because, again, it's one of the things that we want to continue working with you, moving on content, moving forward. So definitely keep us in mind, and, let's get this partnership going. So, Pablo, good to see you. We got we got Robert. We got a bunch of folks rolling in now. We got Streamlabs also saying some things here as well, too. What's up, Pablo? How we doing? Nice. So let's talk a little bit about coaches, guys. I mean, the big reason why we wanted to discuss today was really talking specifically about Brandon Staley and everything that's going on, with our coaching staff specifically. But it's really interesting when you think about, all the changes we've had recently, some good, some bad. I mean, really, it's going to be interesting.
Yeah. It's like the kind of the title of this episode shows, like Brandon Staley literally went nuclear, man. Like he literally just said, you know what? Everyone's out of here. Just like, you're
throw the bombs out.
F you. And he's talking to Nick Feckin. You're cool. F you, get out of here. Straight up like half-baked situation over here.
Throw the bums out is what we used to say.
Yeah.
And I think I'm thinking about Ronaldo Hill in particular. And I just remember what Stephen A was saying kind of in the middle of the season when our defense was still kind of in the cellar. And he kept saying, "What are you doing there, Ronaldo?" So I think we all saw this coming, that Ronaldo was going to be gone. I think him having a lateral or possibly a demotion really in status is kind of confusing. I've heard some say that, well, he's just a really good friend, a friend of Vic Fangio, so that's got to be the reason. That I don't know. I mean, I've moved jobs before. That doesn't quite sound right to me. What do you think? Is it because they're such good friends?
Yeah. I mean that could be a really good reason why he went there, because they were good, decent friends. And he's just like, hey, I need a place to work. I mean, I think that's exactly why Joe Lombardi went to the Broncos, because I mean, clearly, like, Sean Payton and him have had like a really, I don't know, like maybe a 15-year career, like, kind of rapport together, so like, I mean, obviously, I mean, I saw that we all saw this coming, that Sean Payton's going to get the job at Broncos, and then of course if Lombardi goes, then he's going to go over there to Denver as well. So we 100% could see that there is that kind of rapport there, so that they are going to have that little friendship, and it's like, yeah, come over here, come over to my house, let's hang out here. What do you think, Andy?
Yeah, I think bottom line, it's it's an incestuous business, isn't it, guys? I mean, at the end of the day, all these guys are poaching from other people, right? And it's a big part of it. But think of it from Ronaldo Silva's perspective. I think bottom line, he wasn't running the plays. Brandon Staley was completely right. At least if he goes there, improves the defense. Arguably, they have a better defensive staff, right? They had better statistics than us last year, right? But if they go there and he shows some good things, you know what? He might have a shot of making a head coaching position. It's a good example. Look at Kellen Moore coming to the Chargers. Is definitely a lateral move for him specifically. But if he can improve our offense and get our offense going the right direction, let's say we even get like ranked top 5 in the league, which is very doable for our offense. Guess what? He'll probably be in the conversation as a head coaching position moving forward. So I think a lot of lateral moves are strategic. You're just making a move to show that you can do it. You can step in, you can make a team better. And that's what people want to see in head coaching roles. And so, grass is always greener on the other side, but it's interesting to see, but again, there's a lot of changes, and it's interesting how these changes have happened kind of over time. Right. And so you kind of have to ask yourself this question: was it evaluated, each position group and coaching staff evaluated, in stages? I don't know. It's really interesting to see how some of these things have happened. Obviously, that's a major talking point today. So
have you ever had a job where no one said you were going to get fired? No one said you're about to get laid off. The company's doing fine, but they got an eye on at least not helping you move up anymore. They just, you're kind of going to be in a rut.
Yep.
At best, and you're probably going to be looking over your shoulder the whole time.
Yep.
Probably Ronaldo Hill.
Yep. It's a great point, right? So, and again, I think that's a great point, because I do think, it was a good move for him. We could look back on it and go, well, that's kind of a weird move. But again, at the end of the day, we all knew that Brandon Staley was calling the plays. So, and it would give an opportunity for him to work with Vic Fangio again. So we'll see what kind of happens. But this is an interesting little, tweet here, kind of showing all the major changes that we've had with this coaching staff. And again, obviously, Derek Ainsley, it's kind of interesting. I know he's our new defensive coordinator, but it's interesting how he got moved up, and it was an internal hire. I was kind of wondering, I was reading up on him quite a bit. Apparently, he's really considered one of the hotter defensive coordinator up and coming folks and minds in the league right now, which I think is really interesting. But I asked myself this question: who are these people rating these coaches and saying, "Oh, this guy's amazing," or "This guy's a great coach"? Like how are they actually rated? But I do think it's interesting. Are these just the Troy Aikmans and the Tony Romo's going, "Oh yeah, these guys are amazing," and that they deserve to be head coaches? But it is interesting to see how this plays out. Now, I guess here's my question, right? Let's say we don't make the playoffs this year. Let's say all these changes happen and we're 20 million over the cap. Does Brandon Staley retain his job? What do we think? That's my question with all these changes. What do you guys think?
Yeah, I mean, DZ actually hit the nail on the head, I think, straight away. He straight up has nowhere to hide if this blows up in his face.
Good point. Yeah.
It's like, hey, he got rid of all those people, and ain't no one else to blame except for him if the season goes bad. So
yeah, it's true.
Yeah.
I think that Staley I think he's got a little Teflon on his skin. I think he might be able to pull it off. I mean, how he pulls it off, it's going to be tough for us as fans to see it. But, there's two ways of managing. There's managing down and there's managing up. And I think Staley's doing a great job of managing up for sure. He's doing a great job with me. I love the guy. I think that over the long term, if we stick with him, he will find the right people and he will keep the right people, like Ficken. I think if he can keep Ficken, if he can keep Ficken, that's going to be hard. If he can keep Ficken and build on that and find other guys like that, then I'll believe that he's a real leader that really should stay with the team. So that's going to be my criteria. Regardless of what happens with the season, there's going to be more injuries. There's going to be ups and downs. There's going to be the Chiefs. There's going to be all kinds of crazy stuff that's going to happen. Okay, we don't make the playoffs. If in that case, it's really going to come down to, okay, who wants to stay with him and build this thing? If he manages to keep the really good guys with him, I say we keep him. I think that's how he does it.
Yeah, really good point. And Ficken, I was shocked that Ficken didn't get any head coaching looks. during this offseason. I thought, or at least some sort of upgrade somewhere, right? Because, man, he did such a good job with our special teams. And, and you're right. Like, he completely changed. And think we had 3 kickers come in. Dicker, the kicker, only missed 2 balls all season, where one was in the playoffs, which was extremely unfortunate.
Those are some very important balls, though,
Dicker's balls were amazing, Yes,
yeah. Man, honestly, it's actually funny. Like, he's got balls of steel, because that when I was watching the playoff game, there was a guy who actually interviewed him, and he said, yeah, like in that interview, he asked him, is like, hey, so is there any pressure on you when you actually go out there to make these like field goals? And he's like, no, there's no pressure. Like, I literally don't feel any pressure at all when it comes to going out there and doing that, because like, he's like, football comes second to him. Like, this is his job, and he does what he does. But then he knows that his family still cares about him, and no matter what happens, he's able to go out there and do his job. So it's like, and that's like, that's a really powerful like thing to think about, like when it comes to these players, is that like, and I'm sure like it's the same thing with across the board. Sure, they get frustrated with things that don't go well or whatever, but he's out there and he's like, they're all just doing their job and they're doing the best they can. And yeah, so it's like, it's pretty awesome to see that. Like, I really hope, if of all the free agencies that we have, or free agents that we have this year, I hope we keep Dicker the kicker.
Oh yeah. Yeah. He'll be signed. He won't go anywhere. We are 20 million over the cap, guys. We've done a lot of videos on this as well too, guys. What do you think? I mean, we've gone back and forth on these videos. We talked about Keenan Allen. We talked about not Mike Williams specifically, but Mac Bosa. And there's some decisions that have to be made. One of the ones that I know James keeps bringing up, and he's probably going to do a video on it next week. What do you guys think about us trading off Austin Eckler and freeing up some cap space? Right? What if we said, okay, fine, let's trade him off, first round pick, maybe a second round pick next year, something like that, first and second round pick. We free up some cap space. I mean, we have 3 running backs in the tank right now, but we could go get maybe a defensive end. We can make it another running back, maybe another wide receiver, go a little younger in some of these positions. Sell high, right? And Khalil Mack also was one of those guys that we talked about. He hit Pro Bowl year. I mean, who knows? Maybe we can get a second round pick, maybe a third round pick, who knows? Second and third round pick, and free up some cap space. Yeah. Yes, exactly. And DZ, you're 100%. We need to make the playoffs, and we really should make it to the AFC Championship game for sure too. We have that much talent on our team. We just do. So we just got to put it together. And I think Kellen Moore is going to be the big part of that offensive, game plan for us specifically.
Yeah. All right. So what do we got? What are we looking at next year?
So here we go. Why don't we talk about Joe Lombardi here? So guys, this is interesting. Again, what do you guys think about this? I saw a lot of people talk about Joe Lombardi, and I'm like, look, in a weird way, I understand why he wanted to run the offense the way he did, but I kept thinking to myself, why was this just a conversation on just moving the chains? It was never about doing anything explosive. You see the way that the Eagles and the Chiefs play football offensively. They're always moving the ball downfield. They're causing motion. They're essentially setting up plays. Joe Lombardi never did that. He was all about just moving the sticks. And I understand the concept of just getting the first down and then getting into the end zone, but you're putting a lot of pressure on Justin Herbert to be successful. And that was the biggest problem I had with him. So it is interesting that they're going to the Broncos, but I will say this goes to show you, in my opinion, there's something to be said about this. And this is kind of the controversial part of the conversation I want to have here. And what do you guys think in the chat? It's not what you know, it's who you know, right? Ronaldo Hill clearly knew Vic Fangio. Joe Lombardi clearly knows some people on the Broncos side there. And it's like, well, obviously Sean Payton, right? He knows Sean Payton. So that's the whole reason why. And again, what would happen if Sean Payton was hired? We'd probably have Joe Lombardi as our offensive coordinator again, right? And so I just think it's a really weird, interesting conversation point. And quite frankly, I could think of other people that I think should have a head coach or a offensive coordinator role, like maybe Byron Leftwich. Has Leftwich even landed anywhere at this point, from Tampa Bay? I don't feel like Lombardi is that guy, but clearly it's not what you know, it's who you know. So that's my take on Joe Lombardi getting this job over the Broncos. What are your guys' thoughts?
My theory about Lombardi is that he was really focused on fundamentals,
Yeah.
and that it's kind of like the Gus Bradley of offense. You know, like he's a guy you bring in when you think that things are getting a little too complicated, a little too gimmicky, a little too tricky. People aren't keeping up, and that you got the players you have, and you need a system that settles them down so that they can just focus on a limited scope of their job. And that's not the team we have. We have some really smart offensive players that get bored, and Lombardi's a boring coach. And
Yep.
you know, maybe in a place where they need to settle everybody down and get them back to the fundamentals, he'll be a good fit.
Yeah, yeah. I mean, I can definitely see it that way. Like, I mean, the out of your Falcon Mind guys, they talk about Mariota being a freaking dry bread bologna sandwich, you know, like that. Like, I think I think Joe Lombardi is the equivalent of that for head coaching. You know, like, I mean, like his coaching plays are just kind of just awful every single time. Like, it just like he has like no originality. He doesn't make any adjustments towards anything. And so like I'm just like, yeah, I don't think this is going to be the answer for the Broncos either. You know, like, I mean, Sean Payton, but maybe it's going to be the situation again, like where, you know, Sean Payton's still going to be the offensive play caller, but then Joe Lombardi is going to be making you know, doing offensive coordinator, like outside of the play calling. But of course, like, you know, he's going to be hanging up in that booth, looking down on everybody, not hanging with the players or anything like that, you know. So like, and he's not going to be able to connect with the players that way, and not get in their face and not talk to them at least a little bit, you know. So
Yeah, right.
and that's actually one of the things that I'm really excited about with Kellen Moore for the most part is,
Yeah, Kellen Moore's always on the field
because he's on the field, you know, because he knows how important that is. Like, you know, being a quarterback himself and coming up that way, he's like, yeah, I want to be able to talk to my teammates and all the players, and you know, even from a player's perspective, they wanted to actually have that conversation and stuff, and actually get perspectives there, you know. So I don't know. I mean, it's going to be an interesting situation there in Denver. I think that they're probably going to be a bust this year because of Lombardi and like Sean Payton coming in there just for at least for one more year. But potentially 2024 season should be like a much different story, I would say.
Yeah. Well, and again, talk about the offense. Let's talk about what really matters. I think Kellen Moore is the guy that really matters. And if you look at a lot of what he did for the Cowboys, he was very inventive. And the thing that I like the most is that he did not run. Lombardi had formations that you knew we were running the ball out of. We just knew it. That's a running formation. But with Kellen Moore, he runs and passes out of all the same formations. It does not matter. So it'll look like a run, but he'll pass out of it. So he kept the defense a little bit on their toes, and I think that's really what made them successful. If you look at the best offenses out there, the Chiefs, the Eagles, and by the way, the Eagles got gutted. That whole team, man, they are coaches all over the place now, and it's such an interesting league in the NFL because we're such copycat leagues, anyways. But Kellen Moore does a very good job of keeping things interesting, much like the obviously the Chiefs and really even like the Eagles offense. And I'm really excited to see what he can do. Oh, and out of your Falcon Mind, good to see you guys as well too. But what are you guys' thoughts about Kellen Moore? I mean, and I know this article specifically, we'll talk a little bit more about this, but they talk about some people that we could potentially steal. Schultz being one of them, you know, could be an interesting person that we could grab, and a few other folks, you know, but I do think it's really interesting to see, you know, who we may be able to pick apart from the Cowboys. You know, what are your thoughts on Kellen Moore as far as that is concerned with picking apart some of these folks from the Cowboys?
Kellen Moore. So I've got a relationship with Kellen Moore, not a personal relationship, but I've got a personal attachment to him. I'm originally from the Northwest, and he's a legend in the Northwest.
Nice.
So I don't know if a lot of your fans know this, but the Chargers and Oregon teams in particular have a lot of connectivity. I mean, not just her, but Dan Fouts and other players in the past, and our organizations, particularly the Ducks, but other Oregon teams and the Chargers, there's a real strong relationship there. So Kellen Moore coming from Boise State, made one of the greatest runs in my lifetime in college football. And I'm not a big college football guy, but everybody was riveted when he was quarterback at Boise State. So everybody loved that guy. Everybody knew that he was the reason that everything was suddenly working, and they were way outperforming. And he's really a legend from that point of view. As far as just kind of on a macro level with his fit with the Chargers or what bringing him in might mean, I actually have to say I really like the fact that he's young.
Yep,
that's probably his top asset as far as I'm concerned, and it's Staley's top asset because you'll see that mental flexibility to find what's going to work that some of the older coaches often have a hard time doing. I mean, there's a rare guy like Andy Reid that has the kind of mind that will not keep riding a horse that's broken down, that will find a new way. Most of the time, it's just something that comes with age. You ossify, you lose some of that mental flexibility. But I think having a young coach that's already had some success, but is coming, and the words that he's saying, he's coming with an open mind to find the things that work. That's what we really need. That was the problem with Lombardi. He was
100%
too ossified. Yeah.
Yep. 100%. Yeah. What do you think there, Kyle?
I'm excited to see some finger gun action out there. Yeah, no, but like honestly, like look, we've all seen what Kellen Moore has done with Dak Prescott. With Dak Prescott's rookie year and all the years that he actually had when he was actually fully healthy, like and didn't get injured. Dak Prescott did pretty well. Like he was over 4,000 on yards, passing. And I think he was both those times he was over 30 touchdowns a season. And so it's going to be, and now he's got Justin Herbert to freaking at quarterback. Oh my gosh, guys. I'm really excited to see what Kellen Moore does with him, because like coming from a guy who was a quarterback for many years with the Lions and the Cowboys, and then a quarterback coach and now an offensive mind. Like I feel like, and especially by having all that experience under the Cowboys and how the Cowboys organization works and like what their kind of system is, like to put that in with that experience now and put that in like to load up freaking Justin Herbert and that kind of mindset, dude, the sky's the limit now. Like I'm so freaking jazzed for this thing. Like I think I'm going to make a bold prediction right now. We're going to see 40 touchdowns from Justin Herbert next year.
Wow.
40 touchdowns, and I'm going to say close to 5,000 yards. It's going to be a freaking record-breaking year here.
Yeah, and one of the things that he did discuss, he does want to do the 50-50 run pass. Right. And I think it'll be interesting to see how that plays out. Now, I do think also, again, one of the people that, in this article specifically that he's trying to, we're trying to, take away would be their boy Dalton Schultz, another tight end. You got to wonder, what would be interesting to see what would happen with him, right? Because again, I think the Chargers are needing a better tight end. Now, again, don't get me wrong, Everett did a great job, but I think he's going to get paid $7 million next year. Right. So that's quite a bit of money. Is he worth $7 million? I don't know. I mean, when we talk about the salary cap issue, we can let Filer and Everett go alone, and we're almost where we need to be as far as salary cap is concerned. And then, again, we have to sign a rookie.
If we have to get Dalton Schultz and he's wanting $7 million, I think that's exact same how much that Everett's going to get this year. So it's like,
So do we want to switch it up, right? Who knows? So that'd be interesting.
They are saying that tight end is pretty deep in this draft. Now, I don't know the details on that, but that's got to play a factor if that's true.
Yeah, well, and again, I think that's where the argument is to be made, right? Well, in my opinion, I still think the tight end is probably the first person we should draft in this draft, no matter what, because they not only help us in the run game, but they also help us in the pass game and the blocking game to keep our guy upright. And if you see how many tight ends Kellen Moore ran last year with the Cowboys, I think he had 3 tight ends on the field a few times, right? So he went super jumbo sets, and it was good for him because those are also people that he could throw the ball to as well, right? And so it gave a lot of options and flexibility to Dak Prescott, right? Make Dak look good, and we all know Dak isn't the best quarterback in the league, but he's decent enough, right? But anyways, so I think it'll be interesting to see how this all plays out. I mean, I'm excited to see. Look, and I've said this so many times. Again, what are your thoughts on this? I think this is really Telesco's big opportunity to show that he is worth keeping as our GM, right? Because we're 20 million over the cap. He's got to wheel and deal and make some things happen, right? Get under the cap before June 1st, but secondarily, get ourselves in a position to have the right people to be successful next season, right? That's a conversation with Brandon Staley and his team. But really, Tom Telesco's got to make the numbers work. And we all know the Spanos don't like spending money. They sure as heck don't want to be 20 million in the cap, right? So I don't know. I think the person that has the most pressure on our team right now is definitely going to be Tom Telesco. 10 years, man. 10 years. And he's gotten one playoff win. Is that right? I think it's one, maybe two playoff wins in 10 years. Pretty bad.
Yeah, I think so. Yeah.
So, again, I think that's really where it goes. So, Senior and Kyle, what are your thoughts on that as far as Tom Telesco is concerned?
I gotta pick on something else you just said. You really think Spanos doesn't like spending money?
Well, he did last year. He did last year for sure.
I think he proved us all wrong last year.
He did for sure. And I think that's why we were so excited, because it was like, wow, he's actually spending money. He's actually doing something, which is awesome. And he's also been very, involved in the team, right? That alone is a good thing from Brandon Staley.
So. I think he's got an anchor around his neck, which is that sister of his that is ruining our team, except that we're still finding a way. So, yeah, I think the Spanos get kind of a bad rap, and even if they are cheap, I'm kind of cheap too, and I like that. Yep. But I think the question is, did Spanos see the all-in spending spree of last year? Did Telesco, but did Spanos see it as a mistake? Because if he didn't see it as a mistake,
yep,
I think he doubles down.
I hope he does. I hope he does.
Great. Yeah.
Well, there's a scene that Kyle and our sister always says from The Mask. Got to have some green to make a scene, right?
Yeah.
In any sport, you got to spend money. Like, look at the Padres right now. They are blowing money left and right. We just signed Machado for what, 399 million or almost 400 million.
350 million 11-year deal.
Oh my gosh.
He's still acting like he's not committed.
It's crazy. What are you talking about? But again, in order to compete, you have to be the team with a high salary. You got to spend money. If you're not going to do that, you're not going to win. So, it's unfortunate to say that. Yeah, you can get lucky at certain times, but it'd be really interesting to see how this plays out. So, Kyle, what are your thoughts on that as well?
Yeah. So you all know how, like, I rip on Tom Telesco like nobody else's business, So
you really don't like him.
Yeah. I'm just not a fan of like his discount Tom idea. I mean, the biggest coupon Tom, like whatever you want to call him. He's straight up like he's gonna go into the bargain bins and find some maybe 35-year-old wide receivers that used to be fast, but he might actually try and get Randy Moss back out of retirement or something like that. Pay him $100,000.
OBJ.
Yeah, dude. I'm like, dude, this guy, like, he's, I don't know. I feel like, and there's another thing too, like when it comes to Tom Telesco as well, is that like I shared it with my brothers earlier this week, is that apparently in the 10 years that he's been, I don't know if it was all 10 years, but like he's only re-signed or given 2 players, or like, no, it was like 5 players, like second contracts. It was Joey Bosa, Keenan Allen, Austin Eckler. I'm not sure of the other 2. Oh yeah, Mike Williams and Derwin James. Yeah. Those are the only ones that come to mind recently that he's given second-year contracts. And so that begs to understand, like, there's some news coming out now. There's a lot of speculation that we're not going to see a 5th-year option for Kenneth Murray. And then also Drew Tranquil is probably not going to get that situation as well, because let's face it, he doesn't do that. Like, and it's terrible. Like, because like, we're not going to have consistency in these players, and like people, they're going to want, it's great that they're going to start here, but they're going to end up somewhere else, like the Eagles, and make it to the Super Bowl, kind of just like freaking Kaiser White did, So
Well, but you have to remember too, though, also, in that situation, we now spend a ton of money. Now it'll be interesting
right.
to see how it plays out this year, right? Because again, they're gonna have to play the numbers, right? We're gonna have some salary cap left over for the people we draft and what we're
Right.
gonna be drafting. And so that's gonna be really interesting to see. I mean, again, I do think Filer and Everett are probably gone for sure.
Yeah.
But you got to wonder, there's going to be one or two more people that are going to be lost as well, too. And I
Mhm.
think you're right. I think we might lose Tranquil. I mean, it's going to be a spicy offseason, right? And I think that's an interesting discussion. I know it's a discussion people don't want to hear, right? Because hey, I got a Bosa jersey. I want to go get a
Right.
Khalil Mack jersey and all that, and we don't want to see those guys go. But it's also a business, right? Business has got to make money, and that's just a big part of the conversation, right? So, one other person that we do want to talk about as well too is our head athletic trainer. We
Yeah.
obviously let him go as well too. This is an interesting one, guys. I thought this was a bit of an under the radar type of cutting ties with, but again, Damon Mitchell, all the injuries we had, he became kind of the fall guy for all the injuries we've had for such a long time now. And I remember reading an interesting article about this, I think about a month ago, and they started talking about how all these athletic trainers are getting fired because of injuries. And it's like, and basically the article ultimately said, well, there's only so much an athletic trainer can do to really keep these guys healthy because they're still out there playing a very violent sport anyways. But the argument could be made that maybe they're not stretching properly. Maybe the stretching regiment's not correct. Maybe they're not cooling down properly. Maybe they're not warming up properly. That's sort of the argument. But it is interesting to see. And I don't believe we've hired anybody yet as an athletic trainer. I wouldn't be surprised if it was just someone internally we brought up. But I just wanted to talk about this briefly before we move on to some of the final topics and move forward. So what are you guys' thoughts on us parting ways with Damon Mitchell? Senior, what's your thoughts first? And then maybe we'll go to Kyle.
Yeah, this reminds me of when we got rid of Dr. Chow.
Yeah, I remember Dr. Chow. I remember Dr. Chow. That's right. Yeah.
There was a while when we just were like, all of our injury problems, we just needed a scapegoat,
Yeah.
And so the doctor ended up being the guy, and fortunately for us, his replacement punctured Tyrod Taylor's lungs and put us on this course to victory. But head athletic trainer. Yeah, this is kind of like a Lombardi thing where athletic training is an evolving science. It's something that you got to be competitive in professional sports. It is a game within a game, and it's easy to overlook it. And I think one of the things that I heard that resonated with me is that Eckler rarely gets hurt, or he never misses significant time.
Yeah.
He's got his own trainers, and he does kind of his own thing. He's not with core program as far as his strength and conditioning. And so, yeah, it's probably time to find someone with some new ideas that understands that it's not just a cush job that you can just kind of keep doing the same old thing all the time. Now, as far as warming up and cooling down and that whole thing, we saw that Staley brought in kind of a new system when it came to player management in terms of time and intensity, and as well as preconditioning and things like that. And that seemed to be a good thing the first year, and then it seemed to not make a difference this next year. But I don't know if you guys, when you go to the games, if you notice how the other teams warm up. The Chargers have been warming up very differently the last 2 years than any other team that comes on the field. So it'd be interesting to see if we start doing kind of the same stuff everybody else is doing with whoever comes in, or we even go farther afield and do something even crazier.
I remember Ichiro Suzuki. You guys remember him in baseball. It's obviously a different sport, but he never lifted weights. He always did the kind of these like Pilates machines where they were kind of just like, it was more of just sort of like a functional type of, more of a stretching rather than a weightlifting type of thing. Because the argument is to be made that if you're getting more bulky, you're also more, I don't want to say fragile, but you're less flexible, right? So when you get hit, it can affect you more because you have more muscle mass, and that's kind of the problem. The other person I was thinking about too is LT. LT was always healthy. Remember, LT was always healthy, and he was always taking hits, but he never took that major shot. He always kind of would fall to the ground, lean forward or whatever. He was always good at kind of avoiding that big hit. And I think a lot of Austin Eckler is very good at that as well too. I think he's pretty good at that for the most part. But I guess my point in saying this is maybe we should go into more of a stretching type of regimen. Yes, people are lifting weights, obviously, but really doing more stretching, more recovery time, and dealing with things. Now, so it's really an interesting discussion to talk about. And guys, what do you guys think in the chat? Right? What do you think about this and us making this big move? Kyle, what's your thoughts at this point as well, too? We can go to the next topic.
Yeah, I mean, the signs were pretty early that we were going to hit by the injury bug last year.
Yeah.
When Parham went down with that hamstring injury,
Oh my gosh,
at training camp, I was there when it happened. I was like, well, there it is. I was like,
here it goes.
Here it goes. All right. See how many players are going to get injured this year. So, but I mean, I guess the one good thing that did come out of this, what's his name? The athletic trainer guy, is that maybe it was planned that he actually punctured Tyrod Taylor's lung on that injection.
Chow.
Yeah, Dr. Chow. Yeah,
Chow.
Yeah.
Dr. Chow Jr. because it was his replacement that did it.
Right.
Correct.
Right.
Yeah.
So, and so I'm like, wow, it's. I think though, because that guy, he was on the team since 1999, and he spent 6 years as the head athletic trainer. And obviously because of that, he was in charge of the medical. He was in charge of like the physical and the therapy. He was in charge of like the workout regimens and all these different things. And so clearly, and then obviously the stretching is a big thing. So clearly there was something that maybe it was just too much for him to handle all one person. Perhaps he needed to find some more qualified people to kind of be underneath him to do all that stuff, because if maybe he just couldn't figure it out well enough, but I don't know. Hopefully, fingers crossed that the injury bug is gone now, that curse is over. Maybe he was actually salty about the move from San Diego to LA, and and then he was one of those was you guys call them the salties, right, or something? Or, yeah. So
you think he was a salty on the inside, degrading?
Yeah, exactly. He was sabotaging the team the whole time because he was a salty.
You heard it here first, people.
Yeah, we'll see. We'll see what happens with that one. Yeah.
Well, yeah, and bottom line, right? It is interesting to see how that plays out. Well, there's one other topic I know a few people talked about as well too, quite a bit, and this is the old Jalen Ramsey conversation, right? I know people keep talking about him potentially being a landing spot for the Chargers. I have a hard time seeing this being a potential spot during the offseason. I mean, like, how would this work out? Like, what would we do? Trade away J.C. Jackson? I don't know. That just seems a little weird, but it's an interesting thing to talk about that, obviously Brandon Staley and Jalen are friends, when he was, especially at his time at the Rams. But boy, what would it take to get Jalen Ramsey to the Chargers? I mean, I would love that, but I just have a hard time seeing that go. What are your guys' thoughts on Jalen Ramsey? And in the chat, guys, what do you think about Jalen Ramsey coming to the Chargers as well? What are your guys' thoughts at this point?
Who does he replace?
That's
exactly it, right?
The biggest question right there. Yeah.
I mean, we're stuck with J.C. Jackson for a while, as I understand it. So I think if we had signed that guy up to a contract where we could just cut him this year and have enough cap left to make another move, then okay, we should be talking about this. But I don't see who he replaces that makes much sense to me. I think the other thing that I want to point out, not to take us off of Jalen Ramsey, but I was thinking in preparation for today, I was thinking, the Chiefs, we got to beat the Chiefs. Staley knows this. He said this walking in. We got to beat the Chiefs. That's the job. That's job one. Job two, win the division. Job three is go the distance in the playoffs.
Yep.
But job one being the Chiefs. How do we lose to the Chiefs every time? We lose to Kelsey across the line in the middle of the field every time. Is that something Jalen Ramsey's going to fix? No, that's got to be a linebacker thing, which is what we think Staley does. He's not into linebackers.
Right.
It's actually going to be linebacker play that's going to get us to beat the Chiefs.
What's interesting too, and then our new linebacker coach was actually a defensive back coach for the Browns. Drawing a blank on his name all of a sudden here. Let me pull up that article. Linebacker coach. Oh, Jeff Howard, right? Yeah, we will let Michael Wilcock go. And I think the reason why we're going to be doing that is I think we're going to have a little bit more of we want those linebackers to do better in coverage, right? Because they've just done a poor job of that in the past. I mean, K9 just got blown up. He's very good at stopping the run. He should be the Mike linebacker, the one that's really, spying the running back. But man, he does a bad job in coverage. That's just not his game. He's just not that guy. So I think it'll be interesting to see how it plays out. But I will say this, dude. I do think there's almost no way that's going to happen. I mean, as fans, we can sit back and talk about it, but it is an interesting thing to discuss. But the reality is probably not going to happen. So pretty interesting. I know a lot of people are talking quite a bit about our draft picks as well, too. I know people keep talking about tight ends. Well, it'd be really interesting to see how that plays out as well as far as, the draft is concerned. I mean, my biggest opinion is I do think a tight end would be great, and we just have a heavier tight end sets and just these big guys. But man, like, it's just, again, going back to injuries, all these problems that we've had, unfortunately, have just made it so difficult. Parham could never stay healthy. We just had all these injuries across the board. It's like, why is this going to happen? So I think it's an interesting conversation. So,
yeah, I mean, I'll straight up say is like, yeah, there's no way that Jalen Ramsey is going to come to the Chargers. Like, I mean, I would love for it to happen for sure. That'd be amazing. Oh my gosh, just imagine having J.C. Jackson and Jalen Ramsey.
Oh my gosh.
And
then Mike Davis out there as well too.
I think Mike Davis might get let go as well. If he's on the block or anything like that. I mean, as much as I love him, he's improved so much. And I don't want him to go, but I think Asante Samuel Jr. is doing so good that we really don't need both of them there. But of course JC needs to stay healthy too. I mean, he looks like he has been improving quite a bit. I saw on his Instagram he was like doing a bunch of like freaking leg work and stuff, and like his knees are looking good. So we'll see how that shakes out. But where I see Jalen Ramsey going is the Bears. Like, they have what, 90 million. They got so much money, and he's gonna want
too. Yeah, Falcons.
Yeah, Falcons too. Yeah, like, that'd be amazing. I know, like, out of your Falcon mind, if they're still here in the chat, man, like, dude, that would be a huge help for you guys. That'd be amazing. But I don't know, man. Like, and so everyone is talking about the tight ends in the chat, and so like, in a lot of ways, like the DZ's right though, is that like, there's not a whole lot of reasons for us to draft a tight end the first round. That could be a bit of a wasted pick if we do a first round tight end. I think, so and it, like we were saying, it's kind of a heavy tight end draft. So there's going to be some studs still available in the second round, like maybe even the third round too. So,
Snappy, what are your thoughts?
Well, sorry, I keep interrupting you there. Speaking about cornerbacks, what do you think we're going to do with Callahan?
Oh, yeah.
I think I want them to sign him again, but I think they're going to let him go. Yeah, I think he's gone. Because if I remember correctly, it's like $4 or $5 million, something like that. Yeah, he's going to get paid quite a bit. I think he'll probably get let go. So
bigger loss, KVN, Kyle Van Noy, or Callahan? Because I don't think we keep either one of them. Which do you think is worse?
KVN. KVN. Yeah. The thing about KVN is he's a very versatile guy. See, again, this is why this conversation to me is interesting, because it's a very difficult conversation. I know fans, we don't want to have this conversation, but KVN was huge. Callahan was huge. Tranquil was huge, right? These are all players that we want to keep, but unfortunately the dollars are going to be really hard for us to make that happen. But again, see, and this is why I think if we make a blockbuster trade, maybe we trade away Eckler or Allen and Eckler, and get some trades, get some draft capital, free up some space, re-sign these guys. It's tough. I mean, look at the Chiefs, right? The Chiefs lost Tyreek Hill. Everyone thought they would suck. Nope, they didn't suck, right? They knew what they needed to do to be good with what they have on their team. They completely changed the offense around. And it was interesting. I was watching a video about Andy Reid specifically. They're changing their offense the entire season. So they're adding plays over and over again. That one play that they scored twice on in the end zone, they call it corn dog. It's basically where the guy goes in motion, he comes up, and then he goes out. And I think Sky Moore, he scored a touchdown. I think the other one was drawing a blank who the other Chief was that scored a touchdown in the Super Bowl. But They ran the same exact play twice, but they set it up because they knew that the actual Eagles defense ran a very specific set off of motion, right? So anyways, my point in saying that is you got a good coaching staff. They will do the right things with the right players, right? And they'll be successful no matter what.
Oh,
here we go.
Nepotism. Your fans seem to want to talk about nepotism in the
all the time. All the time.
I do have a take on that. If you don't mind me addressing.
Yeah, absolutely.
So I don't know about you guys, but almost every job I ever got was because I knew somebody, and I don't know anybody that we know that didn't get their job from somebody that they know. Yep. And if you have a family business and you can hack it, now we can say he may not be the top front office, director of football operations guy in the league, but he isn't the worst.
No,
John Spanos is not. And so I think nepotism, there's a little bit of that, but is there opportunities for people outside the family? Clearly. This is not a situation where the Spanoses are only hiring, their own relatives into the job. But let's be honest, let's be real. We all got jobs because we knew somebody. That's just the way the world works, and it has to work that way.
Yep. Yeah, and it's kind of like what you guys remember that Upwork commercial where that guy's he's like a zombie, and he's like, oh, if I knew about Upwork, I would have hired people outside of my family, and he's like falling apart, and and he's just talking about.
That was awesome.
Yeah, and so that my mind immediately went to Dean Spanos and the Spanos family and all of his kids on the wall and running our team. But again, bottom line, guys, right? It will be interesting to see how it plays out because again, we got a whole new coaching staff here, right? And that's the interesting thing. I think that's one thing I really have liked about football in general, right? You can't just keep poaching, right?
Yeah.
And they're always you can't just sit on your laurels and the team flips over all the time because you're always out of money. You can't keep everybody. You got to make some tough decisions. And you can pick up players all through the season with your injuries off the waiver wires from people's practice squads, which I think is really interesting as well. I mean, how many people? I think we picked up 3 defensive linemen last season because of all the injuries we had. So I just find that so interesting about football. It's really difficult to be a dynasty. But then you got people like Andy Reid who've done it a long time, and that staff is just set. They know the formula. They got Mahomes. They know what to do. Hey, they're on a hot streak, right? It is what it is, and so. You're right. We got to focus on beating the Chiefs because that's the team to beat, 100%. But anyway. So Dean Spanos, got to love that. So let's talk maybe about mock draft a little bit too. I know we're getting close to an hour at this point. I know people keep talking about mock drafts. Okay. Maybe we should do a little round robin. So Snappy, Kyle, myself. Snappy, who do you think we should draft first in our first round pick? I know we're 21, but what do you think we should go for?
I didn't prepare any names, so I don't have any names. But just as a philosophy, I am all offensive line, defensive line, first round every time. I want us to be that team. We're just starting to become that team. Let's keep that going.
I like that.
So I got a name for you then. I think a lot of times, I've done a couple mock drafts, of course. Like a surprise. The guy that I like that keeps falling to us as well, as far as offensive line goes, is Anton Harrison out of OU, the Sooners, I believe. They are, he's a big dude. He's a tackle, and I think that would be absolutely perfect for us because obviously we know we're gonna get rid of Filer, and well, at least I think we're gonna get rid of Filer, and so if we do, then we need to fill in that left guard situation that could go to Jamari Sawyer. So we have Sawyer and Slater next to each other. And then if we draft another tackle and we have him on the right side, that'd be solid, because but then again, I do still like Trey Pipkins because he stepped up in a huge way for us. He killed it. He did so good. And so I don't know if that's a bigger thing. If we're going to keep him, then we need to get another tackle. But if not, I don't know.
Pipkins ain't easy.
Pipkins ain't easy, baby.
So that's really the question. That is really the question is, do we re-sign Pipkins? Because there's a couple of things to think about now. He seemed like he was a total warrior. It didn't seem like he was a total warrior. He was injured the whole year.
All year.
He played every game. It was incredible, his performance. He sucked all before this year. Everybody knows that. He was not a good player. Everybody wanted him gone. This year, he played amazing.
Mm-hmm.
And what is it? It's a contract year.
Yep.
We all know how that goes.
Yep.
Yeah.
Players always, kind of
Always
outperform
step up.
their history on a
Yep.
contract year. So
Play
can
the
you
balls
trust
off
him?
on those contract years, you know.
If we re-sign him, then that changes what we need to do in the draft. And can we expect good Trey or bad Trey? It's hard to know, what's in a man's heart. Like, did he really turn a corner? Was it a skill thing? Hard to say.
Yeah.
Well, and this is an interesting little mock draft here. I kind of like it. This is the one I looked at, and I need to do a mock draft too as well, Kyle. But I know a lot of people talk about this, and then we got in this one specifically Luke Musgrave from Oregon State. I'm a big believer of a tight end because I do think we need an explosive weapon downfield, right? I like a guy like this. He reminds me a lot of Hunter Henry, right? And I think it's pretty solid to see him. And then we got an edge rusher. I don't know that we need an edge rusher. I almost think we need a linebacker at this point, but this might not be bad, although also because we have Khalil Mack and Joey Bosa getting a lot older at this point. So it could be interesting to see how that plays out. And then we got a wide receiver. So, but again, to your point, Snappy, I'm a big believer of having the best offensive line. I also think the first pick, no matter what, is who can start day one for this team, right? And I just think you get best available, whoever that is, whoever can start day one, get him, because that first pick has to be spot on, period. Every conversation I have around Tom Telesco always starts with how crappy his first picks have been. And I would argue they haven't been terrible. The one that I can think of that is horrible is obviously Speed Bump. We let him go, right? But, and big old Speed Bump, old Jerry Tillery, but again, you could look back on that all day and see, where it really goes. But I really do think, a tight end makes a lot of sense to me. So again, there's a lot to be said about all that. So that's kind of my take on some of the mock draft conversations. I know those conversations are going to be heating up quite a bit. What's your thoughts on that, Kyle?
Oh, sorry. I was going to say, can we look at that screenshot one more time?
Yeah, sure. Absolutely.
I want to talk about that tight end that was up on there.
Yeah,
sorry.
Luke
Go ahead. I just want to get back.
Yeah, he's awesome. Yep.
So I don't know how much this is a thing in professional sports, but it seems like you hear about it a lot. So I told you how there's a strong Oregon connection with the Chargers organization.
Right.
So you see this is attractive. Now, if it wasn't a tight end from Oregon State, I would say, sure, this is likely to happen maybe. But here's the thing. So Justin's old tight end is on the team. He for a rookie minimum, and that's Hunter Kampmoyer.
Mm-hmm.
So Justin doesn't seem the kind of guy that would try to influence a draft. I think he is a consummate team player. He's a go along to get along kind of guy. But I wonder if they would be sensitive to bringing in, the chief rival of the Oregon Ducks, the Oregon State Beavers, a tight end, without giving Hunter Kampmoyer his chance, because he really hasn't seen the field.
Sure, he has not.
Yeah, that's a good point. That's a real good point. Yeah. So I guess I never researched it, who Kampmoyer is. But then again, at the same side, we had Gabe Neighbors at fullback, and who is Justin Herbert's guy as well out of Oregon. But he didn't pan out very well, and so they let him go in favor of Xander Horvath, who's of course hasn't done a whole lot yet either, because of the play calling that Joe Lombardi had. So I don't know.
Lombardi.
Yeah. Like, it's possible that I don't really see Justin Herbert being a type of player who would actually hold a grudge against another player, like if they're from a rival college, though. I mean, they're on the same team now, so like it's a whole different story. Sure, like there could be a little bit of competitiveness on that. A beaver, catching balls from a duck, So like, we'll see. But I mean, I'm starting to come to agree with a lot of the people in the chat here. Actually, it's probably better to draft a tight end in the second round as opposed to the first round. Because beforehand, I was thinking hardcore, like, yeah, we need a tight end. We need someone who's like Kelsey or George Kittle, whatever, like that. But the thing is, though, too, is that both of those guys were drafted in the third and fifth rounds. So, and so I'm like, well, I guess we don't really need one in the first round. So it really might be a better option to get somebody of bigger value that first round there, you know. So but like as Andy always says, you know, we always talk about it as like who we're gonna pick is more likely gonna be the best available at 21.
Yeah.
So whatever, it's like if there's the top available player is a guard, we're gonna get a guard. If it's a tackle, we're gonna get a tackle. If it's a wide receiver, we're gonna get, you know, it's like, so, or cornerback, maybe cornerback, you know. So
yeah. And Tony Reyes made a good point. You know, beat before gazelles. Look, we need butt and gut. We need to start stopping the run a little bit too, right?
Thighs and buys, baby.
Thighs and buys. We didn't do a whole lot of any of that, right? And I think that's where this team really lacked a little bit last year specifically, right? And again, Brandon Staley always runs light boxes. He's never stacking the box with 6 players. Rarely.
Yeah.
He's like, no, we're trying to get an interception. And so, you know, it's going to be really interesting to see how this all plays out. But I keep seeing people keep talking about left guard, tight end, defensive tackle. I'm seeing the big fat guys, right? Just like Snappy keeps saying, right? I think that's kind of what we need to do. And look, hey, we got to keep Justin Herbert upright. We all know what the man can do when the ball is in his hands, right? He can do a great job. And so I'm not a big believer I think we have enough offensive weapons. They just got to stay healthy, right? But secondarily, give Justin Herbert enough time and things will be fine. So, but yes, and this is a good point too. Again, Zay Flowers, everyone wants him, right? That's a guy that I keep seeing a lot of people want. And then also Bijan Robinson, that running back. Mm-hmm. But again, think of it this way. Trade away Austin Eckler, maybe get a first-round pick for him. You'll have 2 first-round picks and free up some cap space and get rid of some of the other folks that we have as well too. Life is good. And, you know, who knows? Maybe then we get Bijan Robinson. He would be solid. So,
yeah.
Interesting thing to think about what's going to happen with some of these players. I mean, these are all the conversations that I promise you are happening right now. As far as they go, you know, who knows? So we'll see where we're at. But any other questions on the chat here? I'm not seeing a whole lot of questions today. A lot of people just making comments, which is kind of where we are in the off season at this point. Everyone just got opinions, right? And we're just throwing some thoughts out there. What were you say, Kyle?
No, I haven't. I don't really see. I guess DZ we had this question. I don't know if we ever popped this one out. At what point does the carousel of coaches and coordinators cripple the team? These hires need to work out, you know. We didn't really talk too much about that one, you know, but and that's just it. Like, you know, like I remember years ago that LT was actually talking in an interview after, like, you know, he retired and stuff like that, you know, that the move to fire Marty Schottenheimer really crippled the team quite a bit, you know, because like they were building something, and it takes a while for these players to build something with a coach, you know, like, and it's not just like, okay, like a freaking like a battery, you know, you take one battery out, put another one in, and it's like you got full power again, you know. It's literally like,
it's momentum.
You know, it's momentum. Yep. It's like rapport. It's, you know, it's getting to know these players, you know, like you got to like let them develop, you know? So it's like, and that's what a lot of, and the truth is too, is like, I mean, maybe Tony can say something in the comments about this, is that like, this fan base is very volatile, and like we're very reactive. You know, it's like, and that's why we always call it kid Twitter and stuff like that, you know, it's because they're just super impatient, you know. They're just like, look, I want to be successful now. And like, well, look, like it takes a minute, you know, like, I mean, sure, like there are some like outliers of situations like the Eagles where Steichen and the head coach, whatever, like they're very new and they made it to the Super Bowl, you know, like, I mean, but they also had like an amazing team built, and they had an amazing draft, and like they had all that stuff going for them, and that Eagles ownership wanted to win. But I think to my last thought on this is that like the problem is constantly hiring new coaches is kind of a desperate move. It's a last ditch effort in a lot of ways, like,
Yeah.
so but a lot of ways it still had to happen too. It's like being in a toxic relationship with somebody, you just got to cut rug and get out of there,
What's your thoughts there, Snappy?
Yeah, no, you're absolutely right about that. Now let's think about this. So Staley, first time head coach, he and really Tom Telesco are hiring people that were his peers just 2 years ago.
Yep.
Right.
They were people that would be like kind of the guy sitting next to you in the office.
Yep.
That kind of thing. So it makes sense that he's not going to nail all of those supporting cast characters right away. It's going to take time for him to figure that out. So really, yeah, it's a problem that there's a carousel of coaches and coordinators. But we're going to see if it gets progressively better. We're really we're going to have to give Staley his props. If it doesn't work out, then we know that this was probably likely the problem. Yeah. But if he pulls it out, hey, I'm open to it.
Yeah, and I think you're right. Right. Rome wasn't built in a day, right? I mean, Patriots. I mean, think of how many coaching roles Bill Belichick had before, he went on that hot streak with the Patriots, right? Look at what Andy Reid's doing, at the Chiefs now. Of course, he's got the right, quarterback in Patrick Mahomes, and he's built a great offense around Patrick Mahomes, right? So, look, I think as a fan base, we get frustrated when we start seeing these musical chairs, but unfortunately, that's kind of what it is. That's part of the NFL, right? You're a team that's successful. You went to the playoffs. People know you. You're going to be wanting to be put in some other teams, and potentially move up in your career, right? And that's exactly why Ronaldo Hill, went with Vic Fangio and these other things. So, but again, the thing that I think is great about Brandon Staley, the thing I like the most about Brandon Staley as our head coach is he brought a good culture. That is something that needs to be built off of, right? And a good winning attitude. And I feel like that was a big part of what we struggled with. But the argument could be made he had the wrong position coaches. Joe Lombardi, potentially the linebacker coach that we let go, potentially the strength and conditioning coach, right? As we discussed. So I think, but that's also tough. And I remember having one last thought on this. When a coaching staff comes in, that's a lot of people they have to hire, and they can't get their first, second, third choices in most cases. Joe Lombardi was his fourth choice for offensive coordinator, guys. Fourth choice. So, and you can also tell that Brandon Staley doesn't really want to let people go. He should have let Joe Lombardi go at the bye week, maybe install Shane Day or somebody else, but he didn't, right? He wanted to stick with his coaching staff. So, again, it will be interesting to see how it plays out, but you're right. It does cause some confusion, but as long as they stick within the boundaries of what the head coach is talking about, it's all going to be good. And Moda, this is a really good point. Kellen Moore is the key. In my opinion, I agree. I think our defense will be better next year if we can stay healthy. But if we can score more points and be more productive, then even just marrying the run and the pass a little bit better, right? Setting up the play action better, not going to be a problem. I think we'll be a much better team next year. So kind of my take on that as well too. And I know any other thought. Go ahead. Kyle.
Yeah, one more thing. The only thing that we needed last year, was to get running yards when we really needed them.
Yep.
We needed maybe altogether 15 more yards on the season out of the run game.
Yep.
To maybe even be a Super Bowl team. So you just got to beat that, Kellen Moore.
Yep.
We got to find a way to get us that yard when we really need it, whether it's Eckler or somebody else.
By the way, I loved Boise State offense when they were so inventive at Boise State when Kellen Moore was there. What was that play that he ran in the bowl game? Was it against Georgia where he faked to throw the ball and then he handed it off behind the running back, ran it in the opposite way? I don't remember what they called it. I think they called it the Eiffel Tower, so something of that nature. But they had the weirdest plays and they all worked. And in college, you could really get away with a lot of that. I would love to see him do that more here with our offense. A little more trick plays, a little bit more motion stuff. He did that very well, at the Cowboys. So I'm really curious to see what he does that moving forward. Again, out of your Falcon mind, great to see you guys as well too. They are the best. Well, maybe we should wrap up here at this point. So why don't I start, and then we'll go to Kyle, and then we'll let our esteemed guest wrap up and talk more about Rivers Lake Yacht Club and give his final thoughts. And again, thank you so much for coming on as well, Senior Snappy. Again, I would say this. Final thoughts. It is interesting seeing all this changes on the coaching staff. I think they're good changes. I think Brandon Staley is a good head coach. He now, I think, really has the right people around him to be successful. It will be interesting to see how the defense is switched up. I would really hope that Brandon Staley and Ansley, our new defensive coordinator, will sit down and actually do something with the folks that we have. I really feel like last season, Brandon Staley still tried to make what worked at the Rams for the Chargers. We have a different type of team, and we have different personnel. I still think he needs to change things up and be a little bit more deal with what he has on our team and not what he wants or what he's had in the past with the Rams, right? I think that's a big part of NFL head coaches. The best NFL head coaches do a good job of working with what they have. And I think Brandon Staley last season specifically focused way too much on what he wanted to have, not what he really had. So I think it'll be interesting to see what happens on the defensive side of the ball. Offensively, I think we'll be fine with Kellen Moore. So I'm excited for that change. So Kyle, we'll go to you, and then we'll leave the last thoughts with Senior Snappy.
Yeah, I was gonna say is that I feel like the fact that Brandon Staley did not fire Joe Lombardi at the bye week was probably actually a good move, because in a lot of ways you kind of have to, like we said, build consistency and stuff like that. And it kind of shows that Staley does support his guys thick and thin. And so like I like to see that. But obviously, and we still made the playoffs. Let's not make it, I'm not saying it was complete horse crap that he didn't do that, So, so I think that it was still a good move that he did that. But hiring all these new coaches, it's gonna be a little bit of rough. Like I feel like people and like the fans need to understand that, it's not, like I said, it's not like taking a battery out and putting a new one in. It's not going to be at full power. People and things are going to need to be learned again and readjusted and stuff. And but these players are smart. They know the system. They know, what plays, like what to do, and they know what their steps are and stuff. And but what I'm excited to see the most is that apparently, because apparently Joe Lombardi had like a very complex, playbook, whatever. It was a very thick playbook or something. And I'm excited to see that Kellen Moore might be able to simplify that in a very adjustable manner. And so we should see some vast improvements right away. So that's kind of what I'm hoping for. And as far as free agents and stuff go, we all know that Coupon Tom is going to make like a significantly no moves and some bigger moves, and he's going to search around the bargain bin again. I would actually be shocked if he kept about 90% of all the players that we drafted from last year. That I would be flabbergasted if that happened, but that would be huge. That'd be huge news. That'd be a huge change in Tom's MO or for the year. But I don't know. And all the free agent things, free agency moves that we make are going to dictate and give us a good insight about what we're going to expect to see in the draft. That's what I think.
Snappy, we'll give you the last word.
All right. My final thought starts with the question: what is the most successful vertebrate on planet Earth?
Vertebrae. Rubbernecking.
It's us. It's human beings.
Yeah.
Human beings are the most successful vertebrate on planet Earth because why? Because of our adaptability.
Yep.
That's Brandon Staley. That's Kellen Moore. And it's proving to be Tom Telesco. Gangster Tommy is killing fools on the team. And that's going to keep going this summer. And I'm looking forward to it because we're showing the kind of adaptability that I think it takes to find our way and to get out of doing the same old things that we've always been doing. So I'm very bullish on this team.
Yeah. Well, I like it. And I like your booze collection behind you as well too. What do you got? What do you got back there as well? What do you got? Got some good stuff.
Yeah, I got some
That's the top shelf right there.
2008 Chargers Legacy.
That is
Hey,
solid.
look at that.
Where'd you get that?
Yeah,
Solid.
nice Cabernet. It actually held up pretty well all these years.
Nice.
Yeah.
So you're gonna pop that when we win the Super Bowl, right?
Yeah.
Well, that was from the Norv Turner years that vintage was.
Ooh.
So you know, we could talk about that another time, maybe.
Yeah.
This just came out this year. This is kind of cool. So Crown Royal with the Chargers lightning bolt on the bag.
Shoot.
Yeah. And then this is my infamous Spanos flask. So, it works for all occasions.
So,
I love it.
Because basically you're saying that Spanos makes you drink.
Spanos makes you drink.
Spanos makes you drink, or we can toast him. Either way, whichever way we want to do it. Right?
There you go.
Depending on the situation. Well, it's been awesome having you here. And again, check out Rivers Lake Yacht Club. We are going to be doing some content creation with these folks here moving forward. So we'll have you back on for sure. So again, thank you so much for your time. And guys, as always, Bolt Bros, bolt up. Kyle, I'm going to hit the button. I'm going to hit the button.
You got it? You got it? Okay, cool.
I'll hit the button. I'll hit the button this time.
All right.
And as always, guys, bolt up, don't punt. And the Bolt Bros.
Man, I just realized I'm wearing like all kinds of merch. I got a Bolt Bros shirt, Bolt Bros the sunglasses, Bolt Bros the hat, Bolt Bros the vest.
The vest.
Jeez.
All right, guys.
Oh my gosh. Merchandising.
Bolt up. See you guys in the next one.